Hey guys, so welcome to Line Check number 7. I'm so excited for all of you to get into the interview, to get into this episode momentarily here after this intro, because I just had such an incredible time sitting down and talking with Brendan. He has so much awesome experience that he shared with me and momentarily will be sharing with all of you. There's a lot you can take away from this interview. I took some notes of my own from it when I was in editing, some things that I'm going to be implementing in my own practice that I'm going to be stealing from Brendan here today. So a lot to learn for sure. Whether you're a drummer, whether you're just a fan, I'm really excited for all of you to check it out. Now, just as a quick intro for Brendan, he's a freelance drummer who's worked with countless artists worldwide. He's best known for being the drummer in Shakira's band for the past 20 years. He has appeared on multiple late night shows. He's been in Grammy performances and he's been on shows like SNL. He is a veteran touring drummer as well as a studio session musician. So yeah, tons and tons of knowledge that he has that you can take away from in this interview. And yeah, let's get into it here. So without further ado, I really hope you enjoy my conversation with the incredible Brendan Buckley. All right, Brendan, so thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me today. I'm super excited to get into this interview.
Hey, thanks for reaching out. I'm happy to be here.
So man, you've had a ton of travel going on lately. I've seen pictures on your Instagram from all over the place. You've been parts of Asia. So just take me through some of like what's been going on lately.
Well, cool. Yeah, one of the things that I do, I'm a freelance drummer, so I work with a bunch of different people at the same time, and I have a group of friends over in Asia that I do concerts with. The guy I've been working with lately, his name is Jeff Chang. He's a kind of a famous singer from Taiwan, but I know his producer and manager and tour manager, so they hired me to go over there and play concerts with him from time to time. So that's what I do. But I've worked with several other Asian artists in the same circle, a guy named Shelby Lynne, a guy named Leehom Wang, a guy named Jason Zhang. These are all popular artists over in Asia that you might not have heard of over here. But but I mean, I go over there and they wind up being like the Justin Timberlakes and Michael Jacksons and Ushers of Asia. So it's kind of a big deal. So it's fun for me. Yeah, that entails a lot of travel, but I'm used to it. I kind of have my routine, so I'm good with it.
So yeah, that's something that I've noticed, I guess, more and more. Like it's weird. I have this perception that like globally, everything is kind of unified at this point because of social media and the internet. Like most of the music scene in my mind is sort of like pretty much the same. But then when you travel and move around to different parts of the world, you find that there's pockets of like, I guess, isolation onto themselves where complete like artists that most of the world might have never heard of, or at least like a certain section of the world, like the Western part might not have heard of at all, that sort of are dominating those parts of the world. What is it that like, why do you think that sort of arises where these pockets sort of form around different artists in different places and they don't really like break internationally as much as maybe other artists do?
I think one of the things is a language barrier. Not every artist decides that they want to be a crossover artist and sing in English. So there might be an enormous artist who's like the Madonna of France and just wants to sing in French. She doesn't want to do an English record. So she becomes huge in the French-speaking world, but only there. And then you find out that the same thing exists in India, in Iran, in Thailand. They all have their huge stars that are basically the biggest icons only in their country, and they remain that way because they decide we're not going to do an album in English and try to break into the US market. Other artists attempt that either successfully or unsuccessfully, but a lot of my friends that do what I do, that's part of what they do, is they play with these artists that are huge only in a certain part of the world, and they have to explain to people who they are, but in their native country they're enormous.
So here in North America, like what we would consider pop stars, are those artists, do they have as much of a presence in these pockets in other parts of the world? Or is it kind of like they're like a lesser known in comparison to how big, I guess, like the local acts can be?
Oh, no, I think what's considered my mother's from Korea, and she says when she was growing up, everybody knew who Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra was. It wasn't like you had to be from the U.S. to know that. Certain people transcend countries. And the biggest stars, everyone knows who they are. I think, at least from, like you said, North America and England, the UK. Those stars, I think, are global. And I think it's, but again, I think it's probably partly because of the scene and partly because of the language. Yeah, I think everyone at this point knows all the top pop stars and all the top rock bands and things like that.
Outside of music, something I noticed on your Instagram is you have some martial arts experience?
Yeah, I mean, I started studying martial arts. I like fitness. I like sports. I like being active.
Hell yes.
Yeah, but one of the things that happened was, I guess, in the mid-2000s, I would always be on tour and hanging out with security guards. You know, you can only hang out in a band dressing room so long and talk about stuff. So I'd go out into the hallway and there'd be some big dude there, and I'm like, show me some stuff. So they'd show me some kind of weird twist or pinch or something that would have me writhing in pain. And I'm like, that's so cool. How do you do that? And they would all talk about the disciplines that they studied. And there's countless amounts of martial arts out there that you can study and get good at. But so I remember around 2007, I got off a tour, 2008, and I went to some local dojo and said, I want to take a few self-defense classes, just, just so I can like know what to do if some dude approaches me in a bar all drunk with a bottle, like and is about to hit me or something. Very simple.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, I never stopped taking classes because it was so fun. So I took Kempo karate.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah, and then some Muay Thai kickboxing, some judo, some Wing Chun kung fu, some Kali stick fighting. That's Philippine. And then now my love is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is more like a grappling wrestling art.
Yeah, perfect. Right on. Yeah, I did a little bit of Kempo, but I did a lot of Taekwondo. Before music, I got to red belt. It was most of my childhood was dominated by like going to like tournaments and competing around Canada kind of thing. So that's super cool. Definitely have that in common. I'm a big fitness guy myself.
Yeah, I think besides being a great way to stay in shape, I mean, the discipline is fantastic, and I think there's a lot of crossovers between music, the discipline it takes to play an instrument and the discipline it takes to do a martial arts well. I mean, you're learning where to put your right hand and your left hand in repetitive manners, and there's a lot of competition involved, not even going to a competition, but even in your class, like amongst your classmates, you're all getting better little by little, and you're watching that happen. And the same thing happens with you and your buddies in drums. You're all getting better, encouraging each other, but keeping each other in check. And I see a lot of parallels. It's really been a great thing for me. And also, I'm not the biggest dude. I'm like 6 feet tall, but I'm 140 pounds. So I always thought it'd be fun to learn something that made me feel learn something that's tough. Like it's hard. After a jiu-jitsu class, drums look easy. Like I'm like, wow, that was so hard. I can't wait to just play the drums.
Yeah, especially like as you said, like being a littler guy, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu really is like a lot of pressure points and learning how to maneuver body weights around with that, like through torque and like fulcrums, things like that, right?
Yeah, they use the term fulcrum a lot, leverage a lot, off balancing a lot. Yeah, it's because basically imagine it's a martial art, but it looks a lot like judo, a lot like wrestling, and you're basically everything ends in a submission hold, some kind of choke or limb twisting motion, and it's one of the few martial arts where they don't distinguish. They distinguish, but they don't have a preference a lot of times between fighting from the top or the bottom because they have weapons from both angles. So a lot of times you want to be always on top, being the aggressor. And this one, they say you can be on the bottom and still demolish your opponent. So you learn how to fight from both sides of the fight, either to be on top, being the aggressor, or if you happen to be on the bottom, you still learn how to flip your opponent or do something very painful to them from the bottom. And it's such a joy.
When I recently, in a recent episode of Line Check, this series, I was doing an interview with another drummer, and I asked him, outside of outside, like what outside of the drum set do you do that you find helps you drastically when you come back to the kit? And he told me that he practices yoga every day, and I found that extremely interesting because on my channel for a long time I've been stressing to drummers like try yoga. It's awesome, and I found that my limb independence drastically improved when I started practicing yoga more regularly and really upped my like weight training, because like it affected me on a psychological level to a point where I just like my limbs independent from one another could move more freely. Do you find that there's a similar benefit from martial arts when you come back to the kit?
There must be. I mean, I think maybe not that I've noticed, but there has to be, just when you're focusing on not only your physical fitness, but you're focusing on constantly thinking about your entire body. Like, my left hand is going to do this while my right foot does this. It's like Twister. You remember that game?
Yes, yeah.
Right hand goes on this green dot here or something. It's when you're always thinking about that. You're always thinking about the extension of your body and what you do at the same time and what you do, not at the same time. I think that must help. But I think about all sorts of things and how that affects drumming. If I jump rope, I think about drumming. I was thinking about this the other day. I was jump roping at the gym, and I'm going like, my feet are moving in different kinds of rudiments. I go in doubles, I go in paradiddles, I go in inverted doubles, and I'm hopping in like on my right foot, left foot, back and forth.
Wow.
3 on my right, 3 on my left, and I'm like, dude, I'm just doing rudiments while I'm sitting there jump roping. And I was the other day playing basketball with my kid, and I'm just sitting there dribbling. And I'm dribbling in rudiments also. I'm just like right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left. And I'm not doing this consciously. This is just from being a drummer. I can't help but think about doing things on the right and then getting the left hand going too. And then it's like you're always trying to work on your independence, your coordination as a drummer. And I think that extends to everything I do. Sometimes I'm driving and I start, I move my left foot to the gas pedal instead of the right foot just to see how that feels different.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to even out. I mean, drums are a weird thing because a lot of it, even as much as you try to set up symmetrically, a lot of it is asymmetrical. Your right hand's reaching over here while your left hand's only over here, or especially if you don't play double kick, your right foot and left foot are doing completely different things.
Yes.
And so I'm always searching for ways to make things a little more symmetrical in my body, So I think I do that throughout the day with activities.
The jump rope, I'm going to try for myself. That sounds super interesting, especially like the audience that, are primarily watching this are from metal and death metal scene. And the biggest talking points on my channel is always questions related to kick speed, kick rudiments, stuff on your feet. So I don't know. I'm going to give that a shot. I got a jump rope in paradiddles or something like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I'm not the fastest double kick guy. I wish I were. That's something I work on, though. And I realized, I used to be like the more like heels really high stomp kind of guy, like that.
Yeah.
And I realized I would max out. I'd max out. And I was talking to a friend of mine once. I'm like, dude, my left foot, that's as fast as it's going to go. He goes, well, you should try learning how to play with your heels a little further down, like almost like they're only like an inch off the footboards. And you're more flicking the toes more as opposed to doing the stiletto stomp,
Yeah.
So I do a little more of that, and it's really helped break down a lot of barriers and finesse and independence and speed and whatnot. But the point is that you can do that with jump roping. You can do that with jogging. Like, I don't know if you know what toe running is, but
yes, yeah.
a lot of guys, when they're running on the treadmill, they just stomp their feet, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then there's the more marathon style running, which is you actually run on the balls of your feet.
Yeah, the whole time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you've never done that before and you start doing that, your calves will burn like
so bad.
You don't know. It's crazy. But then once you get good at it, your feet get strong and your calves get strong. And I realized that totally also applies to playing the bass drum. Is like you change a little positioning of your kick pedal, and at first you're like, this is impossible. My shin's burning like crazy, or I can't get any doubles out or whatever. But then you keep on working at it, and then you're like, wow, this is a good idea. This is an improvement. The musculature of my ankles and feet and calves and shins are really adjusting to this new technique. So, and jump roping can have that. Toe running on a treadmill can do that. Yoga can do that. Yeah, I mean, it's a physical instrument we play. So any advantage you can give yourself, I think, is good.
Yeah, the techniques that you were sort of describing, it's so funny you bring that up, man, because literally right now that's what I'm focused on. I have, for the most part of my playing, have always been the bury or beater type double kick artist, I guess, where it's always full leg motion, like knee comes up and forces everything down, and I'm trying to move the pivot point to the ankle and engage the calf, and that would lower the heel, of course, like you were describing. So that's super interesting. I'm working towards that myself right now, and it's true what you say. Like it's interesting how this instrument in particular can be so affected by your physical health in ways that I don't think there are some ways that in other instruments you can see that relationship, but not as profound as in drums, at least not in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. Posture is a huge deal. Like guys who have they learned how to play drums by lurching forward, and they have a certain lilt and feel to their playing, and they can't get out of that. And then other guys who play super straight up, they have a different thing going on, and guys who are in shape and guys who are not in shape, and stamina. And I mean, I've always sort of treated drums like a sport, not the way people say sport drumming, like competitive chops drumming, but like a sport. Like I would look at a basketball player or an Olympic athlete and say, I want to be able to put the dedication to the drums the way they put to the javelin or their 3-point shot or whatever it is. Like athletes work on their craft all the time, every day, and they do things nutritionally or with coaches or whatever to get better at their craft. And I don't want to take that for granted that, I'm okay at the drums, I'm just going to stay here. No, I want to like every day say, what can I do to get a little better than I was yesterday? And I think I always thought athletes had that because it's such a competitive thing. If they don't stay there, they don't win championships, or they get cut from the team, or they don't qualify, or whatever it is. The stakes are pretty high. So I've always been a little driven that way on the drums ever since maybe since I was about 17 or 18, I kind of started having that attitude.
Yeah, I share the pretty much the same outlook on it because I come from a background in sports, as we kind of brushed on, and a lot of course, the viewers know that. So take me back now. Let's talk about, I want your full story. Let's go to the beginning. Take me through like your upbringing and I guess like some of your early influences and what got you into music and sort of started you off on this career path.
I mean, let's see. I was born and raised in New Jersey, born in a town called Morristown, and grew up in a town called Mount Arlington. So I was about 45 minutes outside of Manhattan, and my dad's Irish American, my mom's Korean, from Korea, and yeah, I guess I was a normal kid who did a little bit of everything growing up, played all sorts of sports, skateboarded, I guess I played a bunch of different instruments just because they were activities.
Yeah.
I took piano lessons. I played trumpet. None of it like super seriously, just a little bit, the same way I did breakdancing or whatever. I did a little bit of everything. Tree climbing, And then I was about 13 or 14 when there was a drum set in the band room that no one was using. So I would go in during lunch periods. I'd eat my lunch really quickly and then go down for 15 minutes and just play beats on this kit.
Yes.
And I really loved it. I'm like, wow, this is so fun. And MTV was really huge back then. So you can watch videos of, all these rock bands. I was really into Van Halen and Metallica and Slayer and Anthrax and all a lot of those bands at the time. So did I say Iron Maiden? I listened to a lot of them too. And then when I was 14, I bought a used drum set from a neighbor, and then was self-taught for about 2 years. Liked jamming with my friends in the garage. And then when I was 15, turning 16, I started taking lessons with Tommy Igoe, who's a pretty big educator in the world right now. He was living in New Jersey at the time. He lives in San Francisco now. But he was my drum teacher when I was 16, 17, 18. And he was like Full Metal Jacket, like super hardcore, like drill sergeant for me. And I kind of needed that because I didn't really have much of that in my life as someone who was just going to like whiplash me, just really not force me, but challenge me to get better every week. His lessons weren't just like, just work on this. It was a challenge. Like, I dare you to have this together by next week. I'm like, all right. So, and I was a little punk at the time too. So I would come back and I'd have it done. And he'd go, okay, that's okay. How about this? Next week, I dare you to have this ready. And we worked on everything: Latin drumming, big band drumming, jazz, classical drumming, marching band rudiment stuff. We did everything in a sort of like a crash course.
Okay. True. Did you?
And then
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick, just with. Did
go ahead.
you do any drumline at all at this time, or?
I played in the marching band of my high school,
Okay, right
and
on.
I played in the marching band of my college, but I didn't do any corps over the summer like some guys do,
Yeah.
like Phantom Regiment or Cavaliers or anything like that. I kind of wish I did in some ways, but I was so focused on the drum set,
Yeah.
and I never wanted to be like, I never wanted to go 2 months without playing a drum set. I mean, I played the drums every day. So the idea of like getting my snare chops sewed together or my tom chops sewed together that I would just do this for 2 months. I'm like, well, where am I? What about the drum set?
Yeah, exactly.
So
I have feet. What do I do with those?
Yeah, I mean, I still love watching like those Vic Firth snare chop videos and stuff. Love it, love it, love it. And I don't have any of that together anymore. But I think at the time, the idea every summer, my friends would all go do corps, and I'm like, I just want to play in a band.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do over the summer. So maybe in another life, another universe, I'll do corps. But and then when I was 18, I moved to Florida to attend the University of Miami, their music school.
Okay, right on.
I auditioned and got into that, and then I went to that conservatory for 4 years. It was great for me. I needed that. I needed to get outside of New York and outside of my environment and grow up a little bit and be a little more independent. And I really just did nothing but dove into music. I was surrounded by musicians my own age. All we did was practice and talk about and share music to listen to, avant-garde jazz, African tribal music, all sorts of cool stuff, Brazilian music, salsa. And I learned a whole lot. And I started gigging a lot when I was in Miami, like go to school in a day and then go play gigs at night with different rock bands or whatever, cover bands, didn't matter. I just wanted to play every day. So that's what I did for many years down there. And through that, like I played in a bunch of bands, started doing my recording sessions down there, joined Shakira's band back then. So I've been in Shakira's band for 20 years. And then I moved to LA in 2004 because I wanted to change. And I thought it was either go back to New York or go to LA. So figured I'd do something new. And I love it out here too. That's the short version of my life. If you want to hit any of those parts more specifically, we can.
Yeah, let's talk about the conservatory. So what were some really important moments while you were there in Florida? Like especially with the styles of music. So what were some styles of music during that time? You mentioned like some African styles like that really sort of imprinted on you and helped you to grow as an artist. Yeah,
I think what was so good about Miami is, if you've never been there, Miami is a very Latino city. Okay, it's like 50% Spanish-speaking city, and it has a lot of immigrants from the Caribbean, from South America, from Central America, mostly South America and the Caribbean, though. So, and they all bring their own styles of music. They all do their own gigs, which all come with their own classic standard hits, their own rhythms, everything. So I think that was huge for me, that I was the half Asian kid from New Jersey. I'd go down there and I'd still get to jam and play with these guys. And what I learned back then was it's more important to have good time than to know the name of every single rhythm in the world. Because sometimes I would get asked to do a gig and I'm like, I don't know if I'm the right guy for this gig. I don't know Venezuelan folk music. And they're like, don't worry, we'll teach you what rhythms to play. Just come down. And I'm like, all right. So they would just sing me like, play this. I'm like, all right, cool. I just play that. Don't know what the name is. Sometimes I don't even know where beat one is, but I just keep time. And they're like, great, sounds good. And I would learn over time because the culture and the music scene was so welcoming. I learned over time how to play all these different syncopations and rhythms and different time signatures and I'm very fortunate for that. It could have been very isolating, like, you don't belong here. But it was the opposite. It was like, if you can keep time, there's a place for you here, so pick up the sticks and join us. So I played in Brazilian groups. I played in African drum ensembles. I played in salsa bands. I played a lot of jazz back then. I don't play nearly as much jazz now as I used to. Yeah, and that was great too. I played with a lot of vocalists. I learned a lot of covers because, they'd always call covers to play. And I feel like I never wanted to not know the songs, not know where the stops are. I mean, the key to learning a cover, if you can't learn everything note for note, is learn where it starts, learn where it stops, learn if there's any breaks in the middle, and if you can learn that, you're pretty good. Just keep time, know the starts and the stops. And there's some songs that have trickier parts than others, but I learned a catalog of tunes, thousands of songs when I was there. And I also learned, all that street-wise stuff, like what works and what doesn't work. I go to play a gig and I'm just working on all my Dennis Chambers licks, and the singer turns on and says, "Knock that shit off." I'm like, "Oh, sorry." So just play time, dude. I'm like, okay. But I've been checking out all this stuff. So I learned, like, there's stuff that you learn in the practice room for yourself, which is great, or you could play it with your buddies. But then when you get hired to do a gig, do what makes them comfortable. Do the kinds of grooves that make that gig feel appropriate.
Yeah.
And so, I would do blues gigs with these old dudes who were playing harmonica and piano and saxophone, and I would just play just real simple blues, and they were so happy. I wasn't doing any trickster stuff at the time. So I would work on some stuff in the practice room, and then I would go play very functional music at night. And that really was a great lesson to me, was to combine chopsy transcribing kind of music and then also learning what felt good, stuff that makes people feel good and want to groove or want to dance or, that kind of stuff.
You mentioned earlier there about like time signatures. Something that I've noticed is the longer that I've been learning songs for, like just consuming more music and learning more stuff, I will learn a song and then I will go to actually like maybe record it or do a cover for it for the channel or whatever it is. And when I break it down inside of the DAW, I notice, oh my God, like especially in metal, right? Like right now it's going from 4/4 for 3 bars and then to 3/4 for 2 and then back again. And there's a cover a few months ago I did that was literally like that. But when I was learning the song, I wasn't really counting it like that. It was just a feel thing. Do you found that when you were just like you described it as just sort of like play and keep time, when you were doing that and just sort of learning all of these different, like in your mind, I guess, nameless different patterns that probably had some history, but you were just rolling with, did you find that it gave you a sense of all of these different time signatures and feels that was internal and you couldn't really put on paper yet until maybe later where you kind of like rolled it back? Or was it something that you were, I guess in the moment of figuring it out, you were like, okay, well, I figured it out in my head. All right, he's singing that to me in 3/4. So now I can count it and get back into it. What was it? Was it like natural or more of like a resorting to, I guess like notation?
I guess it's a little bit of both. Some songs, they might be in an odd time and you don't even notice because it just feels good. I mean, I always loved Soundgarden because I thought Soundgarden played odd times but made it feel like Zeppelin. It felt real funky and straight. And then other bands, you listen to them, you listen to Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa's music sounds like it's in an odd time. It just does. It sounds more mathematical. So there's some tunes I'm learning. I'm like, I want to check this out because I don't know where beat 1 is. I'm checking it out because I'm confused and it's got to be odd and there's a 16th note missing and I want to learn this. Then there's songs that they feel normal to me, and then when I learn it, I'm like, oh, wow, there's a beat dropped here. I never noticed that. So there's both, really. I think you got to get good at both, but I think definitely I try to make music that is in an odd time. I try to make it feel natural, make it feel normal. Yeah, I had a friend from Bulgaria in college, and I don't know if you know any of the music from over there, but a lot of their music is in odd times, and like even normal songs. And he explained to me like, oh man, but you don't think of it as an odd time. You just think of it as 2s and 3s. That's how we hear music there. And we don't think of that 17 and 19 and 21. We just hear either 1 2 1 2 or 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. You know, that's how we hear it, and that kind of made a lot more sense because you'd be surprised. All your aunts and uncles can dance to that music over there because they're going 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2, and like everyone's like at a wedding dancing to that kind of music, and I'm like, huh. That's interesting. So weird odd times like 15, 16, if you do it right, can actually feel good. He's like, yeah, absolutely. If you think of it that way, you're thinking about where the pulses lie in this time signature, you can kind of make it a little groovier. And it kind of made me think about that in a different way.
That's actually so fascinating coming from like my side of things in metal, because the second you start talking about time signatures like that, it just gets insane and elitist and really technical, and to the point where you almost, with some acts, especially now in modern 2019 metal, it gets to the point sometimes where you have to like sort of warm yourself up to it. But you're right, like the feels that you were singing, that felt normal, but it's not 4/4. So that's really cool. The other thing I wanted to talk about too from your experience there in Florida is your point about the chops in the studio and then coming back and playing it simple. I thought that was super interesting because that was a lesson I had to learn. It took me some time to get that. It pissed off a lot of people at first, but eventually when you come around to it, I felt at least, and maybe this is the same for you, I felt that when I was in the practice room, the more complicated ways I was pushing myself, when I left the practice room and played a rock beat, AC/DC, whatever, on stage, I found that because I had spent that time working on a Dream Theater track or whatever, right, like a Periphery track, going and playing 4/4 on stage, it made my pocket so much sort of groovier and tighter. Did you find that at all?
What I would say is that playing groovy and 4/4 is not, there is a intricacy to that also. So maybe what you're doing is you're working out all the technical kinks. You're warming up with, it's like you're swinging a baseball bat with like 3 donuts on it. And then when you take it off, you're like, okay, this bat feels really light to me now.
Yes, exactly.
It might be that, but it's not necessarily like you're dumbing it down, but you're actually, your limbs are getting all the hard stuff out of the way. Like I'm working on this weird thing, these doubles and this, and now I'm going to focus on the pocket, and the execution of my drumming is not going to be the issue because I just worked on that.
Yeah.
Now it's just going to be focusing on the pulse, focusing on the accuracy, the consistency of each backbeat, because that is also hard. But if you're trying to do that while you're also trying to get your technique together, like I didn't warm up, so this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel good, this, I'm a little off balance. If you're off balance and you're trying to play simple, it's still going to sound like garbage, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe working on the hard stuff is getting all the technical stuff out of the way, so then you can focus on playing a little more pocket-oriented. I do think they're two different things. I think you still need to work on pocket drumming the way you would work on any other skill, but definitely the technical stuff can help warm you up for that, I think, much easier. I warm up with a lot of different exercises, even when I'm playing super simple stuff. But then I actually work on playing simple stuff too, which sounds crazy, but sometimes people ask me, what are you working on now? I'm like, I'm working on hitting the crash cymbal on beat 1 real tight with the kick. And people are like, that sounds dull. Like, it is dull. But if you record yourself in a DAW, like, and you're doing recording sessions remotely, and you notice, wow, I kind of flammed that downbeat a little bit, or, it's like, so I actually work on stuff like that. I work on all sorts of simple things that make my studio drumming like super tight on the first take. My fills are super in time, or my downbeats are really in time. And that is it's not fun stuff to practice. It is like caveman, 3rd grade stuff that you feel like you're working on, but it really makes you sound better and makes engineers go, wow, I didn't have to move a single note. It sounds great. And, so I work on both.
So I really love your analogy about the baseball bat. That makes like a lot of sense. Going back to the pocket, what are some exercises what are some things that you do to become a better pocket drummer, to like add more feel to your playing?
Yeah, it would depend on the feels that I'm about to play. But if I were going to be specific, say you're going to play an eighth note rock groove.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Anything that's in that vein. You know, something I do a lot, I do this basic exercise, which is I just take the left hand snare drum, right hand on floor tom, left foot on the hi-hat, right foot on the kick drum, and I just play eighth notes, medium volume, mezzo forte. I'll just play that for a while. And I call that getting into the groove of the song, getting into the subdivision of the song I'm about to play. If that's the subdivision of the song I'm about to play, I just play that for a while. Maybe I'll play some accents like or or just getting my whole body to pulsate in that, right? Yeah, and that's something. And then when I play a simpler groove like I feel like my body is now sort of quantized to that grid of the song that I've been doing. And the same thing goes if I'm doing 16th notes. If I'm doing like if I'm doing something like that, I'll just play that subdivision with all of my limbs for a while. Maybe sometimes I do a slowed down version of that where I go with my left foot going, my kick drum, all my limbs pulsing at the same subdivision. And then when I just play regular beats, you'd be surprised how everything starts lining up better. Nothing's lagging, nothing's on top. All your doubles in your kick drum, all that stuff starts to line up a little better. Where you drop your snare drum, where you drop your ghost notes, they all seem to line up better. Your fills, they all sort of feel a little funkier.
Yeah.
So I try to like imagine like what song am I about to play, and I get that BPM, and then I just start experimenting with the subdivisions that I will be using in that song. And then once you play the song, it feels easy. You're like, wow, since I've been doing the harder stuff for 5 minutes prior to this song, when I start playing the actual song, it's like a simplified version of what I was just doing.
Yeah, that's super smart.
Everything lines up better.
I like that a lot. So when you go into a session, like when you go into like a studio session and you're recording over a track, what are some things that what are some lessons that you had to learn to get really good in that space? And then like, what are some things that I guess like producers look for in you that that make you so desirable to bring out to put on a song?
There's a few things I think that are required when you're trying to be a hired gun session guy. One of them is, is the speed that you can play something, like meaning how quickly can you get a part down where they can move on. If it takes 3 days for you to get a good drum part, they're losing money at that point. If it takes you 1, 2, or 3 takes and they're like, wow, we're done in 45 minutes, that's incredible, that makes you valuable. Another thing is interpreting a song. Maybe they all they have is an acoustic guitar part and they're like, I don't know what to put here. And you're like, I know exactly what to put here. In fact, I have 3 different ideas of what we can do with this song. And you show them all 3 ideas and they're like, wow, I like that. Let's go with option B. You're like, B, let's do B then. But if you're like, you're right, I don't know what to do with this song either, you're not very helpful. So you have to be like, almost like you're the guy who's there to solve their problem.
Right on.
We wrote this song, we don't know what to do with it. You're like, all right, cool. Let's do, there's the kind of more straight ahead rock version, and there's more of like a folky version we can do, or we can do kind of like an electro vibe, which one do you, like, oh, let's hear the electro vibe, and you do that, and they're like, oh, maybe not. How about let's go with the folky vibe? You're like, let's do the folky vibe. And they're like, I love it, let's go with that. So I think being able to quickly give producers and songwriters options is cool, and along with that is having your tones dialed in, meaning like, it doesn't take you very long to get a good tone for whatever approach you're going for, whether it be the hard rock version or the folk version or the electro version, whatever thing, you can dial it in real quickly. Like, I'm talking about this kind of warm, gushy vibe or the super pingy, attack vibe or something. Because a good drum sound is super subjective. What you think is great and what I think is great and what my mom thinks is great are all different. So it doesn't matter. It's just, can you get there quickly, and can you, convey that to the people who hired you? So I think those things are important. Obviously, playing to a click is important. Everyone knows that now. But if you can't really, really bury a click track at this point, that's something everyone needs to work on. I fortunately started doing that a long time ago, and I went through phases of that also. There was a time where I could play with a click. I could play with a click. Okay, cool. And then, but I wasn't burying the click. And then it was like, okay, now I can bury a click. I'm synced with it, but it wasn't feeling good. It felt kind of like garbage still. You muted the click. It didn't feel good. It felt like I was like, super mathematical. So then there's a whole third level of, can you bury a click but make it feel like there never was a click track? It's just organic and natural. You're just grooving naturally. That's a whole other level. So, you can keep on getting better at that, And it also, there's different scenarios. Like if there's loops or programming that you have to play along with, then you have to be very accurate. Like how accurate can you be with a loop? And then if they're going to replace it, then you don't have to worry about that as much. You just have to groove. So I think playing along with drums that are going to be there in the final mix is one of the harder things to do. So that takes some time to practice and really get in sync with. Because if flammy kick drums, they sound really terrible on recordings. If you're flamming the kick drums, all the low end starts to disappear. It gets really weird. So yeah.
I'm stuck in that middle, that second phase that you talked about. I'm kind of there, and only in the last, I guess, 3-4 months have I really identified that I'm there, which I guess for me, that'd be the first step in getting out of it, of course. But it's super interesting you bring it up. I love it. How does a player go from being able to bury a click, but then also make it feel good and get to that final level that you described? Because I'm right in the middle where I can play in time to the click, but you take it away and it's kind of robotic, feels more math-like. How do you bridge that gap and get up to like real pocket, sort of tight with it, but it feels good?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think. I like that question. Well, there's a lot of metronome tricks that people play. Because if all you do is play with a quarter note all the time, got, and you just play like that, that's cool. But then maybe try playing with eighth notes or 16th notes. Or you play with different subdivisions. Then you start playing with the upbeats, like one you start playing with the click on different beats. And then the harder thing is to play it on the E's and U's. Like that kind of stuff. So then it makes the click just feel like there's some dude playing cowbell in your band. Just playing rhythms. He's just playing next to you, playing rhythms like the cowbell, like Will Ferrell cowbell guy, So it's not like this anchor that you're trying to glue your groove to. Now you're just playing beats, and there's some dude in your ear going, and you kind of relax a little bit, and you start getting used to playing the drums and grooving without thinking 1, 2, 3. It's just this rhythm going on in your ears while you're playing. And it just takes time. You don't have to get it overnight. It might feel awful at first, and just think this is a process. It's the journey, right? So you get better and better at it. You experiment with different kinds of tempos. It's really important to go slow and to go quickly, go down to 58 BPM and then go up to 140, back and forth. Just getting used to what your body does, how much it tenses up when you go too fast or too slow, and relax in those tempos. Change types, go 3/4, go 6/8. I think it's really important. Not enough people work on their shuffling. And I don't mean just like a blues Texas shuffle, but I mean everything. Everything should be practiced straight and then swung. If you can play like real like kind of like shuffly new jack things, and you can, I think, imagine that, like everything in a straight 16-note quantization, and then in the shufflier, swingier quantization, you start to really master your own ability to interpret grooves. You just get better. It's not like it's not the metronomes thing. You're just getting better and better over time, and you're using the metronome as like a partner to help you get better. So then, sooner or later, that you're recording yourself, and you're like, man, I find it so easy to play with gut now, because I've done all these other harder things with the metronome and with my grooves, and I've experimented with all these different things. It just happens over time. It's a little like, it might take a year, it might take 5 years, it might take 10 years. Everyone's growth is different, but you're going to notice that it just gets easier. You know, I play with metronomes and click tracks all the time now, and it makes no difference whether it's on or off now for me. People always ask me, what do you want? Is it more natural without or with or without? I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter anymore, because it doesn't feel different to me. Either way is fine. You know, a lot of people don't notice whether I'm using a click or not. I often have one on the side of the stage with me, and I'll use it sometimes, and I won't use it other times, and people don't notice when it's on or off, because I try to make it feel. I don't want the click track songs to feel stiff, and I don't want the no click track songs to feel like the tempo's moving all over the place. So I try to use it. It's on for my comfort, not for any of their reasons, you know.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I saw a Drumeo episode recently. It was one of their newer videos where I can't remember the instructor they had on. It was a guest, and he was talking about how his click track is always accenting the ands. It's always on ands, and then he has one accent on one. And I kind of watched the whole episode, and at the end I was like, is this really important? I don't know about this. And now I'm hearing you say it again, but not even just the ands, like take it a step further and play, you know, around it while it's accenting E's. And so when you're moving the click to different the click accents, when you're moving that to different 16th notes or 8th notes or whatever, do you adjust in your practicing? Do you adjust the groove to feel like those 60, like the E and the ah is more important? Like, does it change, or are we still kind of sticking to a set of rhythms?
The same beat. It's just your click is on a different rhythm, so it feels like, holy shit, I feel like everything got shifted over. No, it didn't. It's just the click got shifted over. My beat is the same. You know, it's a little tricky, but because the notes will be on the off beats. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you're hearing, and it's like, so at first, but what's cool about when your clicks are on the ands or on the E's or on the uhs or whatever is they're actually easier to hear. When it's on the downbeat.
Yeah, because you're not coming down on it. Exactly.
Yeah, when it's on the downbeat, actually you can't even tell, am I locked or am I not locked? But it's a lot easier to hear the ba 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 or ba 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 ba. It's easier to hear in your ears because it's not landing with the snare or landing with the kick as much. So I'm a big fan of when I'm doing tours and they want to have click on the tour. I like having an 8th note subdivision in there. So, because I hear that better. Like they want to good. I'll say, can you put like an 8th note shaker in there? Because that's probably what I'm going to hear in my in-ears better than the downbeat. Because you start getting loud and thrashing, you're not going to hear the downbeat anymore. You'll hear that though. You'll hear the offbeat a little easier.
Exactly, man. That's super fascinating. At that point too, you're really, really paying a lot. When there's nothing in between it, when it's on E and ah, and there's nothing in between on the downbeat or the ands, you're really focusing on the space between the notes then. I can see how that can lead to better pocket for sure.
Yeah, it's all about interpreting the space. Yeah, like using your subdivisions to interpret the space. If we have in a rhythm, we have the pulse, which is the and then everything in between is the subdivision that we're going to interpret. Whatever it is, you have both elements. So you have to master the pulse, the you have to also master the spaces in between each pulse and how you want to interpret it. Whatever it is, however you want to fill up that gap in between, but to really command that gap, that takes some time.
Last point I'm going to bring up on this, and this is just for everybody at home, something I tell a lot of guys too, that's kind of along these lines, but not quite as deep as we've delved here. But I automatically tell a lot of guys who are struggling with their time, what's the tempo of the song? Oh, it's in 120. Okay, set it to 240. Try it again. You know, like just that extra subdivision. And we've kind of already brushed on that at the beginning. That really does help because, as Brendan's saying, you know, you hear those clicks between and it makes such a difference. Now, so I want to move into like your sort of modern professional touring experience. Let's talk about like how you got hooked up with Shakira. What was it like in the like early days working with her, stuff like that?
I started working with her way back in '98. I know a lot of the people probably watching this maybe weren't even playing drums that early or whatever, but I've been doing this for a while. So I was on tour with one pop act. I was living in Miami at the time, and a friend of mine called me up, asked me if I'd come into a studio and record a track for this artist flying into Miami from South America. So it started out as a recording session. I played on this one song. It went really well. They asked me to do a couple more, so I played on half the record. And when the record came out, the manager and the artist asked if I would do a few shows, like CD release parties for this new album. And I did, like one in Puerto Rico, one in Mexico, one in New York. And I've been with that band ever since. So that was Shakira. And then we immediately, right after that album came out, we did an MTV Unplugged. And that was really big for her. You know, we did that. That was a lot of fun. And that's when she really put the core of her band together that's still together today. And me, the keyboardist, the lead guitarist, we're still doing that. We've been doing it forever. So depending on the style of music and whoever's producing a record, I've either played on a bunch of songs on her records or I've even co-written on some of her records. And other times I've not done very much because it's super electronic or reggaeton or something.
Yeah.
But I've done every one of her tours. We just wrapped up another one last, I guess, November 2018. We just wrapped up another tour. That was a lot of fun. And it's a great gig. It's a lot of fun. I get to do a whole lot of stuff. We go everywhere. And I've also got to see it grow because when I started, she was only singing in Spanish. And we're doing just pop rock songs. No clicks, no anything, just a quartet, just playing songs. Yep. And then it got more dance, more world, more Latin, more Arabic, more African, more everything. And I dove into the whole electronics world, took a lot of lessons on different kinds of percussion instruments just because she's always asking me every tour to play something new. So it's been a real fun gig for me.
So what have been some insane high points? Maybe in the beginning, some really surreal moments for you.
I think getting to play on all those big TV shows was fun. SNL, I got to do that a couple times. That was fun. And all the other TV shows like Grammys and VMAs are fun. You get to meet a lot of other drummers when you're doing those types of things, which is great. You know, I go do SNL. All I want to do is talk to Sean Pelton, and I you know, so, like I go do the Grammys. I don't care about my performance. I'm like, who else is performing? You know, and I get to meet all these other great drummers. So that's fun for me. I grew up in Jersey, so of course playing all those big New York venues was important to me. Playing Giant Stadium or MSG or something is so cool because I can invite my parents out, and that's where they used to take me to see concerts when I was a kid. So those are a big deal. I mean, I don't take any of it for granted, but I also, it's going to sound like I'm trying to be humble or something, but I don't separate much difference between me playing a local gig with my friends here in LA. I live in LA, by the way, or playing some Uber gig somewhere. It's all the same to me now. I love being on stage, playing music with my friends, with great musicians. And I don't really care if there's 10 people there or 10,000 people there. I think it's also because I'm a drummer. I'm not a lead guitarist or a lead singer with the one foot up on the wedge and like singing to people and connecting with the audience as much. I'm kind of back there doing my thing. I think it's kind of a drummer's role. They're kind of behind their gear and they're just rocking out or whatever. So, you know, if the place is enormous and packed, that's cool. If the place is enormous and empty, I don't even notice that much because I'm still just doing my thing. So I think I really chose the role that suits my personality. I think I really feel comfortable being a drummer, and I like it that way. But I'm trying to think of other memorable things. I mean, I've met a lot of great people along the way, and that's been great. All the relationships I've made in the music industry. I feel like that's just priceless for me. And
so what have been some struggles or some like crazy stories from on the roads, like bus breakdown, anything? Is there anything insane I'm sure there's plenty of insane stuff that's happened along the way that you guys have had to get through.
Man, it would be so hard to even fit that into a day's conversation.
Oh yeah, fair.
But I mean, bus breaking down, yes, all the time. Bus accidents, yes. We've had.
Oh wow.
I've been sleeping in my bunk and heard scream, screech, bam, and then I get out of my bunk like, what happened? And we slammed into a car on a foggy highway.
Oh God.
I remember once we got to play the pyramids of Egypt, the Cairo, the pyramids. We played a concert beneath the pyramids at night. It was great in the desert. We played for all these people. Thank you. Good night. We get into our bus and we're stuck in the sand and we can't get out. And we're just there. We're just there like for hours, just like just going deeper and deeper into the sand. I'm like, this is the most un-rock and roll exit ever. All the audience is there, like kind of filtering out. We're just like, we had to get out. We had to get out and help push. We had to get out and put like, you know, where you throw rocks under the tires to try to get some grip. So we're all like scavenging around the desert looking for rocks to throw under the wheels so we can get out of this place.
God.
Yeah, that's real deal. Yeah, but that stuff is the best. It really is. When things go right, it's not that memorable. When things go wrong, man, it's so funny and you got a great story out of it. I remember all the things that went wrong on stage, all the props that broke, every mistake is hilarious to me. You know, things go perfectly, boring. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. I love the bus story. That's priceless, man.
Oh yeah.
I could
all the audience going, "Yay, what's up, guys?"
Yeah.
We're like, "Yep."
I could just picture leaving like the venue, I guess not venue, but the setup, and just, what's going on over there? Oh, that's Shakira's bus.
Just had all the musicians are pushing it. Yeah. Idiots.
Oh man, that's too funny. All right, so for all of you at home, Brendan has multiple videos breaking down in detail all the gear he uses, but so I'm going to include some of those links in the description of this video, and you can check out sort of some deep dives that he's done in the past. Usually I do go into depth in these, but because of that, I'm just going to leave that for you to check out. However, though, Brandon, if you want to take us through maybe some of the companies that you play for, some endorsements, or maybe some gear that you're currently using you really like.
Sure. I don't mind. I'm a gear nut, so... Let's see. I've been with DW since 2000 or 2001. I think something like that. And they, of course, have PDPs, so you can use Pacific too. They have Gretsch now, too, so you can use that. But I've been with LP since about that time. I've been with Sabian since, I think, like 1998 or something. Vic Firth around that time also. Roland Electronics. I think I started playing them around 2010, and a whole bunch of other companies. I mean, all the cool little companies like Low Boy Beaters and Reflex drum pads and drum dots and Canopus snare wires and Mono Creators, and I'm probably leaving a few out there, but yeah, I believe in finding gear that works for you and then just, you know, being happy with that. There's a lot of people like just they're like gear whores, and they jump ship every year. I kind of stay true to the companies that are good to me. It would take a lot for me to turn my back on someone that's been taking care of me for 15, 20 years, you know. So I really love those companies. They're great, and it's also cool to help slightly be involved with newer releases, like to let them know, you know what, I'd be kind of into if you develop this kind of darker cymbal line or this whatever, maybe a piccolo snare or whatever, kind of suggesting maybe there's a little market for something that you're not doing, and they go and work on that. Yeah, so I've been using that forever. The new gig I'm doing, I started last week. I'm in Perry Farrell's new band. So from Jane's Addiction, Porno for Pyros. So I have a new setup with him. I'm using my DW acrylic drums, clear acrylics, and yeah, those sound really good. And what else? In general, I like darker, thinner cymbals for the most part. They record really well. They get out of the way very quickly. So that works well with singers. With guitarists, you kind of need some projection and some bite, though. So it always depends on how loud. Any project I'm in, I kind of gauge the difference between the lead singer and the lead guitarist, meaning if it's full Marshall stack, like Les Pauls, I might need some heavier, more pingier cymbals. If it's a little quieter and the singer's a little quieter, I'm going to go with the darker, lighter cymbals. I don't know. I don't know. How about you? What gear has been turning you on lately?
Oh, I'm all over the place with gear. I was playing for a cymbal company called TRX for the better part of the last 6 years. Yeah, and
Dave Levine, is he in the? You know him?
Yeah.
He's one of the marketing guys from them. Yeah.
Yeah. I recently started playing Meinl cymbals though, and I'm absolutely in love with them so far.
Meinl? Yeah. Chris Brewer and Norbert. Yeah, they're great guys.
Exactly. Yeah. I got there's a signature China by Matt Garska, who's the drummer from Animals as Leaders, called the Equilibrium China. It's like it's a 20-inch vented China with it's sandblasted. It's part of their traditional series. So like I guess originally it would be Brilliant, and then they sandblasted and make it more darker, quicker kind of thing. Yeah, let me think. Oh, there's this new ride cymbal I picked up. I've done a few videos on both these cymbals actually, but there's this new ride cymbal that I was recommending. I picked up. It's called the Meinl Byzance Polyphonic ride, and essentially it's like they call it a ride, but I'm not sure why. It really is like just a big crash.
Big crash. Yeah. I love rides for crashes. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And this guy is it has like 3 separate zones where the outside ring is really like a crash cymbal. Like you can dig into that thing. It's huge. It doesn't have a lot of nasty overtones. It fills out a guitar wall really well. The center sort of zone approaching closer to the bell, you get like a really nice like ping stick articulation's like really good there. But it also has like, because it's thinner near the edge, it has like a good amount of resonance still. So it lasts a little bit longer than your typical like drier ride. And then the bell's really dry. There's like very little resonance there. It has this it has like a washy feel where when you hit the bell, you get the initial attack from it and it just fills out a wave, and then you get this kind of like wash as the vibration travels through the other zones in the cymbal. It's really cool. I keep recommending it to everybody. It's super fun to play around with just because it's so diverse. Yeah. Outside of that, man, I guess I've been on the same drum set for it's just I got a used kit years ago kind of thing. Like I've been on this same exact Crush kit for years now, and I'm really due for a replacement because it's starting to take the abuse. I'm a really heavy hitter, so it's starting to wear out. But outside of that, yeah, I have a Tama Speakover pedal. I don't know. That's pretty much it for gear, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. I've seen your videos. They sound good.
Thanks, man. Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recently introduced mics. For the longest time, I've been the YouTube drummer for, I guess, like, since I started, really. Yeah, no. Because in the beginning, I had mics. But for the longest time, I guess better part of the last 5 years, I've just been uploading videos where me and my friends made a bunch of NKIs, like samples of the kit. And it's just me playing the kit. And that way I could record in my basement without... Like I didn't own budget mics. I didn't own any mics, but without having the budget to, get a full set at home so that I can be doing it every day or whatever, stick to a schedule. I just like found the solution in sampling it with really good mics that we rented in a proper built space. And then when you bring those samples in, and the other thing too is like samples are not great for most genres, but in metal we're good to go, right? Because it's 127 every hit, full velocity,
super
triple,
punchy,
yeah, exactly. So for that, like it's been mostly samples, but I recently introduced some mics, just some basic stuff. Like I got some Sennheiser 421s for the toms, whatever, right? Like so I recently started miking in this last cover, but yeah, that's pretty much been it. So
nice. It's a progression.
Exactly.
We're all trying to improve what we're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just trying as many ways as possible that you can afford and that are accessible to you at the moment. And then, hopefully working towards the next thing and checking that off. So, all right, man. Well, this has been an absolute blast. I want to wrap up just with I guess you've given my audience nothing but advice this whole time. That I mean, I expect the guys at home to be able to take so much away from this. But is there like a couple key pieces, like tips and tricks that you could share that you would find like maybe some of the most important, I guess like principles when trying to become, you know, professional drummer, session drummer, touring drummer, whatever it is, kind of thing?
Man, there's so many things I could say, but well, there's definitely something I was thinking about the other day, which you might have heard before, but there are so many factors into getting a gig, like whether it be your look or your credits or how well you play or who you know. There's a lot of that. But the reason why you get fired from a gig is usually, in my opinion, two things. Either you can't play in time or you're a jerk. I think those things... It's hard to get a gig, but I think it's relatively easy not to lose a gig if you cover these two factors.
Yep.
Play in time, because don't give them a reason to say, man, we got to get someone else. This guy's time is horrible.
Yeah.
And don't be a jerk. Don't say, man, we got to get someone else. This guy is horrible. You know. So I think, you know, it's hard to control. I talk about this in LA all the time. LA's filled with amazing drummers, and we can never, and we're all friends. So it's hard to say, like, I don't know how you got that gig and I didn't, but congrats. You know, it's a mystery, but you pretty much know why someone gets fired almost all the time, you know, and either they were difficult as a person or their time was a little shaky and it made someone feel weird, you know, for the most part. There's also eccentricities that go into that, but so that was one thing. You can pretty much work on that. It's a lot easier to work on those two things than it is to work on all the intangibles that go into making the hiring process possible. And what else could I say besides that? Something I've often said to people is that a career in music, I feel like it's 50% how you play and 50% who you know, meaning that you can blaze circles around the drum set, like next level amazing. But if you're doing it by yourself in your practice room and no one knows about you, that's where you will remain, you know? So you have to have some way of getting out there, either going to jam sessions, being in a touring band, having a YouTube channel, networking with other people, going to a music school, whatever it is, just hanging out at gigs and meeting other people when the shows are over. So, seeing a band and going up afterwards saying, hey, dude, I loved your set. You sounded great. I'm a drummer too. And that's enough to start the ball rolling. All that stuff is almost equally as important to how you play. If all you do is that and you suck at the drums, you're not going to get very far either. So that's why I say they're both important, is meeting people so you can get those connections happening and also being able to back it up with some solid drumming. I think that's the right formula to having a good pedestal in the music business.
Perfect, man. Right on. Okay. Oh, damn it. The lights just died. One sec. Okay, let me try that again. Perfect, man. Right on. That's awesome words of advice. I couldn't agree more with both of it. It's very true. I connected with a lot in this interview, and especially those last two tips, because I struggled for a long time at being the guy in my basement who thought I was pretty good, I guess, kind of thing. And it was really tough to break out and start networking. But once you do that and like you combine both of those, doors start to open and a lot of opportunities start to unveil themselves to you. So it's really cool to hear.
Sure. I mean, and this is great. I mean, it's great. I'm so happy you reached out. And it's funny, you reached out to me. You're like, yeah, I kind of do more of like a metal thing, but I'd love to have you involved too. And I feel like, yeah, I do a lot of pop rock music, a lot of studio music, but I'm a huge metal fan. And that's why I played drums in the beginning. And I wish that I were in some cool heavy metal band, but I've never made it. So, I mean, but I always work on that stuff, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of metal drummers, metal drumming, and that's like a secret passion of mine on the side while I do what I do. But so it's great to be here talking to you, and I like what you do, and it's great to have a moment to chat with some of your audience. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I really do. The times that I've branched out and tried a different genre, like Latin or something, when I come back to metal, I'm always such a better drummer. So that's, I guess, a big part of the reason why I not only reaching out to you, but other genres. I've been trying to a lot get in conversation with guys that are outside of the scene, because I think like my audience can definitely benefit from hearing, you know, from Miss May I or Bless the Fall or whatever, these drummers that are in the scene, and a lot of them are gonna say pretty much the same sort of stuff when it comes to a lot of the questions, especially from like the practice side of things. But to hear the voice of like guys outside of that who, especially guys outside of that, but especially very well diversified artists like yourself, to hear your sort of thoughts on, you know, all the different things that you've shed light on today. That's really, really fantastic. And for all of you at home, I strongly recommend you take all those words of wisdom, because it really is gold, and it will make a difference in all the genres and all the things that you want to sort of apply that to as you move into your career. So yeah, man.
I feel like I could talk with you for another hour or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to run to a rehearsal now.
For sure.
I'm glad we made this happen.
Me too, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so there you have it. I really hope you enjoyed my conversation with Brendan. If you enjoy content like this and you would like to support the channel further, you can find a Patreon link and a merch link in the description below. You can also connect with myself further, as well as Brendan, in the description below through all of our social media links. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you again to Brendan, and I will see you all very soon with something new.